In today's video, we are going to look at arguments and parameters. We're going to look at the difference between what an argument and a parameter is, how to use default arguments for our functions, and what a variadict function is. So let's dive right in. To begin with, let's look at the difference between arguments and parameters. Suppose I have a function called add, and add needs to add three numbers together. So I'm going to make add take three what are called parameters for its function definition, so a, b, and c, and I'm just going to return the sum of a, b, and c. So in the function definition, we call a, b, and c parameters, but when we actually execute the function, what we're passing in are called arguments. For instance, print add 1, 2, and 3. In this case, 1, 2, and 3 are the arguments, while a, b, and c are the parameters. If I run this, unsurprisingly, our answer is 6. So the only difference between arguments and parameters are how they are used in what context. Nice. Let's move on to what variadict functions are. Suppose that I have a function, yet again called add, and I want to add not only 3 numbers, but an unlimited amount of numbers. So what I can do is say star numbers. This means that the function will take an unlimited number of arguments. Let's just print numbers just for fun and get rid of this function right here. So if I say print add, and I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So as you can see, when I pass in 1 up to 6, and I print numbers, numbers is simply a tuple. So this places the arguments inside of a tuple. And so if I want to add all these numbers together, I can say total equals 0. And since numbers is a tuple, it is an iterable. And so we can iterate over the numbers in our numbers tuple and add them together and return their total. So this addition function is more generalized than the previous one, because we can say, hey, I would like to add any number of arguments together. Please do that for me, and it will do so. If you haven't noticed, print itself is a variadict function, because I can say print A, print B, print cat, print dog, and it will print all of these consecutively. So the last kind of argument I would like to talk about are called default arguments. Suppose I want to create a function which will record the time and display a message. So I'm going to call this function record time. And when I record the time, I want a message, and I also want a time for which I recorded the message. However, usually when I'm going to execute this function, I want the time to be the default time. So one way you can use this is say dt, so date time, which I got from this import. So right here, dt, datetime.now. So this will get the current time, and in here, we could, for instance, save this to a file, or for our purposes, we are just going to print it to the console. So now I'm just printing the message and the time, which happens to be the current time. So right now, if I want to record the time, I can say record time, and I'm going to say it is the morning. And notice that even though I have two parameters, one of them is a default parameter, meaning it already has a value. It will have a value once I call it, so I don't need to specify a second argument. So it says it is the morning, and it gives us the time. But the nice thing about default parameters is that we can override them by specifying an additional argument. For instance, it is the morning. I'm just going to give it a random time, February 22nd, 1998. And that's going to say it is morning, time, February 2nd, 1998. And we can do that. In this video, we looked at what arguments and parameters are. In the next video, we are going to look at the difference between return functions and void functions. See you then.